everyone. I have my tea with me today. Now that it is fall, even though it's going to be 75 degrees today, I always need to have a cup of warm tea in my hand, and it's going to be like this until probably April or May of 2025. So here we are. But today's video, we are going to talk about bringing our whole selves to meals. A lot of times when I'm speaking with women, they're really struggling with that connection of knowing when they're hungry, knowing when they're full, knowing what their food is actually tasting like and how they're actually feeling during meals. I think we're really busy, right? Especially as women, we're really busy and we're always doing 1,000 things at once. And the one time I'm going to really encourage you to not be doing 1,000 things at once is when you're eating. Because when that's happening, when you're multitasking, even if you have a screen on, like you're watching TV or you're going through your emails on your phone or scrolling on social media, that's bringing you out of touch, out of connection with your body and how you're feeling during a meal and your hunger signals and your fullness signals and all of that. So if you are struggling with your hunger signals, if you're struggling with cravings or digestion or just feeling connected to your body and what's happening within it during your meal times, I think you're really going to take away some good tips or pieces of advice, even if it's just one, that you can start to incorporate into your life and bring to meal times with you. So there's a lot of talk right now about being mindful when you're eating, and it's about, the number of times that you should be chewing or putting down your fork between bites. And those things are great. I think that they are both very important when we think about mindful eating. But I think even more important than that is just being present with your physical body, being present with your emotional body. Because so much of the time when we are emotional eating, not that it's necessarily bad all of the time, but it does happen. And sometimes when we're emotional eating and we're doing it to numb out, we kind of numb out everything. So we do numb out hunger signals, we numb out fullness cues, we numb out how our body's really feeling during the meals and what it's actually wanting. And we're just strictly going off of maybe some uncomfortable emotions that you're experiencing, that maybe food makes it easier to, or it's a distraction, or it's calming instead of actually feeling those emotions, right? So today, I'm cooking chicken for our lunches. I'm meal prepping. I'm multitasking myself right now. I'm meal prepping, so that beeping, that's what you're hearing. How lovely. So let's bring it back to our topic at hand here. So the first thing I encourage you to do when you are trying to mindfully eat is just taking a few deep breaths before you start your meal. And you don't even have to do this at every meal, but start, let's say, if there's one meal that you eat by yourself, let's say you eat lunch by yourself, just taking 3 deep breaths and really dropping into your body, getting out of your head, dropping the to-do list, dropping the argument that you just had with your coworker or your husband, or what's going on at work, or what you need to do for your kids and your kids' schedule and all of that. I want you to really try to drop that, take 3 deep breaths and feel into your own body. Because one way to reconnect yourself just with your physical body in general is to connect with yourself while you're eating, and to really make it a sensual time. And what I mean by that is actually using your senses during your meals. So what are you smelling? What are you tasting? Is your food hot? Is it cold? All of that. What does it look like? What colors can you see in your food, right? Using those senses to bring you into the present. So taking 3 deep breaths, dropping in, and then, yes, activating that sensual body. What are you seeing? What are you tasting? What is the temperature? What are the textures? All of that is going to, again, help you just be present in your body. Okay, so once we've activated our senses, we're ready to really eat. And when you're eating, again, it's going to be that sensual experience. This is where those textures are really, you want to start thinking about the textures and, what herbs can I taste, or what seasonings can I taste, or is this salty, is it sweet? All of those types of things to continue to drop in and feel connected while you're eating, and to be eating in a mindful way. I mentioned earlier that a lot of advice that we're hearing is to how many times you're chewing your food. So I'm not someone who is very rigid. I'm not going to tell you that you need to chew each bite 100 times. Like, to me, that's a little crazy. It makes me feel anxious because when I try to chew something 100 times, it hurts my jaw. My jaw gets tired, right? So I'm not going to tell you to chew your food 100 times, but I'm going to tell you to chew it, right? When we are just eating quickly and, again, just not present at all with our physical body, with ourselves during meal times, it's really easy to just kind of like shovel food in your mouth and scarf it down. And that not only brings us out of presence, but it's really hard on our digestive systems, because our mouths, that is the first stop on the digestive train, right? So we want to, help the rest of our digestive systems by making sure that we're using our teeth for what they are for, right? So we want to use our teeth to really chew and grind up that food so it's in an optimal form for the rest of your body to digest it, right? So making sure you're chewing your food. And again, you don't have to do it a certain number of times, but you do need to do it until you feel like it's really been, I guess, processed would be a way to put it, processed by your teeth and into an easier digestible form than the whole food that you're originally putting in your mouth. So chewing is really, really important. You can, of course, put down your fork between bites. That can help you bring some presence to how quickly am I eating? Like, do I have another bite on the fork before I've even finished the bite that's in my mouth? I think that's really common. Like, we're busy, we're trying to make meal times quick because we don't put the importance on it, the emphasis on eating as, we do and we don't, right? We think it's something that we don't really need to be present for. It's something that, it's more of a chore these days than it is a sensual experience or a pleasurable experience, right? So putting down your fork between bites can really help you bring awareness to how you're eating, at the pace you're eating, and make some changes there if that's what you feel like you need to do. Okay, so we're gonna maybe put our fork down between bites. And then the next thing I really want you to do, or encourage you to try, is dropping in and getting curious about the experience of whatever meal that you're having. So what I mean by that is, what's going on in your emotional body? What is going on in your physical body? What's happening with your taste buds? Like, is this something that you actually enjoy and that you're getting pleasure from? And if it is like a really pleasurable food for you, are you actually in that moment enjoying it as much as you think you're going to? Or is this like all a mind game, right? So one thing that I think can really help with that, maybe, how do I want to say it? If you feel like you're just instinctively eating something because it's in front of you, rather than making the choice to eat something, this can be really helpful. Because when you're making a choice to eat something that you know is going to be very pleasurable for you. So this is going to come in handy, like really with the holidays coming up, with Halloween coming up. We have a lot of, sugary things around, and I'm not telling you to avoid them. Absolutely not. But I'm telling you to be aware of, how are you choosing your food? Are you choosing it because you've seen it and you're like, I can't resist that, even though, it's not my favorite, it's okay, but it's sugar, so I'm just gonna grab it? Or is it more of a choice like, that is my favorite candy, or that's my favorite Thanksgiving dessert, or, ooh, I love these Christmas cookies. I wait for them every year. So when you can have it that second, that's when you make the choice of a mindful space rather than that like instinctive, reactive, I see it, so I'm gonna have it. When you make that choice, it becomes a more pleasurable experience, right? So when you sit down to eat that food, no matter what it is, I want you to really ask yourself, is this pleasurable? Am I actually present for this? Or am I gonna get up and feel like, I didn't actually experience that food, even though it's my favorite cookie, or even though it's my favorite candy bar, even though it's my favorite kind of pie. So really bringing some presence when you're having those pleasurable experiences, because when we do that and we feel like we actually had an experience while we were eating, a pleasurable experience, that absolutely brings joy to us, right? Like pleasure can come in many different forms in life, and one way that we can really experience pleasure is through food. And that's totally okay. Food is not just fuel. Food is pleasure. Food is community. Food, can bring us joy. So if you're making choices to have foods that are more sugary, or foods that that aren't the best to have all the time because it's not going to promote the best health, and if you're struggling with making those choices, when you bring presence to the experience of eating those foods, you're going to have, I would say, a more long-lasting experience where you feel like, oh yeah, I really did sit down, I really did enjoy that. Now I can move on with my life. I'm not going to be sitting here thinking about it and needing more and more and more to try to get to that experience of having like this euphoric moment, because you're never going to have that if you can't be present with the food that you're eating. So I had this, an example of this just a couple weekends ago. So one of my favorite bakers, she had made chai scones, and there's chai, and this is chai tea right now. I drink chai, especially in the cooler months, all day long. I love chai tea. I love anything chai flavored. So she made chai scones. This is the first time that I think she's ever made them, or at least had them for sale. So I knew right away, okay, this is going to be an experience for me. Like, I really want to indulge in this. So I got some, and I waited until I didn't have any kids hanging on me. I wasn't in conversation with my husband. I think it was like nap time. So I didn't have anyone touching me for like a good 10 minutes. And I sat in my kitchen and I enjoyed that scone. And I'm telling you, it was one of the best things that I had ever eaten in my life. Like, my taste buds were so happy. And I was present the whole time with it. I was, asking myself, what can I taste? What is this texture like? Oh, it's so moist. And like, my brain was lighting up. It was fabulous. It was so good. But I had that experience because I chose to be present with it, because I chose to wait until a time where I wasn't like wiping someone's mouth and someone was crying and someone needed a snack and, talking about bills, or, just being pulled away from that experience. I sat down, I enjoyed it, and we still had a couple left. And I told my husband, I was like, that was one of the best things that I have ever had. Like, I enjoyed that so much, and it was so good. Yet at the same time, I felt like I had such an experience that I don't need anymore. Like the next day he was having some and I was like, honestly, I don't even want it. I remember how good it was yesterday. I know this time, if I chose to do it today, I know that I'm not going to have that same experience because the kids are awake and I'm in conversation with you. I'm not going to be present the way that I want to be and have that same experience as yesterday. It's just not going to be as good. And it's going to be more of like, oh, it's here, so I have to have it. Like that type of thing. So I chose presence. I chose to have it at an opportune time. And it was fabulous. And it was great, and my body responded well to it, and I could just like move on with my life. So that's an example of really mindfully choosing something rather than feeling out of control around a food and having to have it and eating it while also feeling guilt, eating it while also answering emails and or working or cleaning or whatever else you could be doing while you eat. It was just a totally different experience than it would have been if I had been distracted in some other way. So I invite you to try to have that same experience the next time there's something around that you really want and you really want to enjoy it and you really want to experience it, and see how you feel afterwards. See if you feel like, okay, that was awesome. That was a great experience and I'm ready to move on. Or is it like, oh, I want more and more and more. And, it's just kind of like that cycle that you can get in of feeling out of control around food. So I encourage you to try to start bringing some more presence into your body, into your physical body, into your mental space, and making choices around food rather than eating something because it's in front of you and you feel like you have to eat it because it's there. Those are two different experiences. And when we experience the former experience that I explained, it's much more long lasting. It's empowering to feel like that food doesn't have control over me. Yes, I enjoyed it and it was delicious, but I can also move on with my life and not think about it anymore, right? It's not going to be in the back of my mind because they're still on the counter and I know that they're there and I wasn't feeling guilt or any of the other emotions that can come when we have indulgences. It's just a totally different experience. So this was a really long-winded way of offering an invitation to you to bring more presence to your meal times and seeing how that starts to shift and change your relationship with food and your ability to feel like you're the one in control rather than being out of control around food. I think when we start to bring that presence, when we ground ourselves before meals, when we bring our full body to the meal, our full selves to the meal, rather than having a little piece of ourselves out in, to-do list land, having a little piece of ourselves out in, what happened at work that day, or, knowing that you need to go switch the laundry, or feeling guilt about what you're eating. When you can just be present with your body, bringing yourself in through your senses and really being present and aware during your meals, I promise you will see a shift in how you're experiencing food, what your relationship is with food, and how you're interacting with it. I hope that is helpful to you if you struggle with your relationship with food, if you struggle with feeling out of control around food, because I know so many women do. And I think we feel that way in isolation. It's isolating to feel that way. We feel shame, we feel guilt, and we feel like we're the only ones it happens to. And we look at other people and we think, well, they never experience that, or they're so good because maybe they're not eating this same food that you are. The reality is we're all women. We all grew up in a culture obsessed with being the smallest version of ourselves, obsessed with what each other are eating, obsessed with diets. We all have those experiences. But I think the biggest act of rebellion is bringing your full self and presence and empowering yourself through those food choices rather than having anxiety and judgment and shame around it. So I hope this video helps you. This is a lot of the work that I do with one-on-one clients. So if these videos are helping you, I encourage you to schedule your free 30-minute consultation, and we'll get deeper into, will we be a good fit to work together? And I can point you along the right path of working with me or working with someone else, or just pointing you down the road depending on what your goals are. But yeah, if these videos help you, or you just resonate with them and you feel like I'm talking directly to you, absolutely schedule your free 30-minute consultation, because we have got some work to do and I would love to be your guide. See you next time.